Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pango Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Ajanulambiti Bujao Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Yataksho, Vishwambaro, Dvijabaro, Yugadharma Palo, Bande Jagat Priyakaro, Kornaya Avataro, Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya, Hemavadivyachta Visundaraya, Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Adadanastidam Dantaya Idam Jache, Puna Puna, Srimad Rupa Padamboja, Duli Sham Janma Janmani. So today is the Avirbhav Mahotsav Vrindavan Das Thakur's appearance day. It's been described as the Vyas of Chaitanya Lila, as Vyas recorded the pastimes of Krishna, Srimati Radharani and Braja Gopis in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vrindavan Das Thakur recorded the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, originally called Chaitanya Mangal, and later rebranded as Chaitanya Bhagavat. And we hear in the Chaitanya Bhagavat about his mother Narayani. He's also called Narayani Nandan, son of Narayani, that she is the niece of Srivas Thakur, and when she was a very young girl, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, when Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, was transitioning toward Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was beginning to express bhaktabhav, or devotion. Sva bhaktebhya sudham nidam bhajana mudram upadishan. Rupa Goswami is saying, Brahma and Shiva are astonished to see this transformation. Sadopa Shasriman Drita Manujakai Pranayitam Bahadbi Girvane Girisha Parameshti Prabriti Bi Shabhaktebhya Sudham Nijabhajana Mudram Upadisham Satchetan Kime Punara Pridashor Drishor Yashati Padam. So astonished they are, and curiosity within them to have a glimpse of the golden Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar, that they're descended, disguised as human beings. And this is the Prakriti Lila also. So Brahma and Shiva are coming, but they're not coming as Brahma and Shiva ostensively, but in the guise of human forms. Brahma, Shiva, other gods, they're coming to have a glimpse of the incomparable beauty of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and bearing the gifts they've come are the love and affection that is in their hearts. That's what they've come to offer. And so when he is transitioning, he's descended to experience and express, praise, infuse, distribute Bhakti Bhav, and the devotional heart, and culminating in Radha Bhav. And in those early times when he's transitioning, the devotees are hearing astonishing things from him. And he's saying, when they're having the conflict with the Chandkazi, told they were not exempt from the social considerations of the day. Opposition is there to enhance the bona fide, and say to enhance the substantial thing. Some opposition. In Krishna Lila, so many asuras. In Gaur Lila, asuras in various iterations. So he's telling the devotees, now he's saying that, don't you know I have the capacity to make every man, woman, and child, every living being to take the holy name of Krishna. I can make the animals, we see and later in Jharkhand, the tigers are dancing and madly and ecstasy taking Krishna Nam, the elephants. But he's saying some apprehension on the faces of the devotees. They're thinking, no, but the Chandkazi is going to come here with all of his men and it's going to really be bad. He's saying, no, I will awaken him to this ecstasy also. I can make everyone take the holy name of Krishna and experience Krishna Prem. Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaur Tashe Namah. Rupa Goswami will glorify Mahaprabhu in this way, saying, he's distributing Krishna Prem. Right? Not anything less than that. He's not just giving generic mukti or off-the-shelf siddha. He's giving Krishna Prem, that which he considers to be the most valuable thing, that's what he is distributing. What he's descended to experience. Because after all, he's Krishna. From the Krishna, Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham, that Krishna, right? Govinda Mari Purusham Tambaham Bhajami. He's always on the receiving end of love and devotion. But due to the being overwhelmed by the supreme devotional heart of Srimati Radharani, has awakened within him the curiosity to experience this position of param kasyapi prani janabrinda shukutuki. But seeing that it's yoga maya play, but the doubt, apprehension on the faces of the devotees, he sees the girl, Narayani, this little girl, Haridas Takur, and says, Narayani, now take the name of Krishna, experience Krishna Prem, and cry ecstatic tears. And immediately she's like, Krishna, Krishna, and tears streaming out of her eyes, and she's experiencing all different sorts of ecstatic symptoms. He gave her as his proof, the mother of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And we know that she was also blessed with, the Mahaprasad, Mahaprasad of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was also given to her at various times. So how exalted she is to have this supremely devoted child, Vrindavan Das Thakur, who Guru Maharaj describes as the last disciple of Nithyananda Prabhu. Because we can understand if Narayani is that young and add it all together, you can understand Nithyananda Prabhu is still manifest within this world. Mahaprabhu is left, and Vrindavan Das he's left to mourn what he's just missed, in a sense. Right? Thinking like, and he's seeing all these places. We think sometimes like 500 years ago, if we can even imagine 500 years, right? But if something happened, if you have affinity for something or great feeling for that, and you just missed it by a day or a week, then it's really painful. Right? If we say 500 years ago, we can't even really properly calculate that. And our misfortune, non-uraga, that we're not disturbed about that. But for such great devotees, Radha Takur, others, that they come in the aftermath of all these divine events and pastimes and the appearance of the Lord. It's heartbreaking, vipralambhabhavs, separation that they're feeling. And he's seeing the places that he's come to know, where Jagai and Madai were liberated, this is where Nimai Pandit had his school, this is where all these different places. But if we look at the wealth of the gift of Vrindavan Das Thakur in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's all there. It's live streaming reality. And then where did he get all of this? Well, if Guru Maharaj said, he's the last disciple of Nithyananda Prabhu. So from Nithyananda Prabhu, we can understand he's getting everything. And he is also considered one of the Dwadasha Gopal, the 12 cowherd boys who descend, the entourage of Nithyananda Prabhu. So, and he's the vessel to receive all of this. What sort of heart is qualified for that sort of reception? It's not that they pick a man in the street and give him everything. Although in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, that's also possible. Right? When he's distributing his Krishna Prema, if he casts his glance upon someone, Krishna Prema is awakened in them. But in the case of Vrindavan Das Thakur, it points to how exalted he is and how qualified is his heart that he's the recipient of all of these pastimes that are described there, and will be the vehicle, the instrument for their, as vyas, for expression, extension, expansion. But he's mourning, lamenting, and that's creating some intensity within him, that it's in the aftermath, some eagerness, some earnestness for this connection. And we see that in the Chaitanya Charitamritam, that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, I don't know how many times, maybe 50 times, will say, Vrindavan Das Thakur has already described this in great detail in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And it would be offense for me to repeat that, what he's already perfectly, incomparably described. But there's some things he left, particularly what is called Sheishlila, the final pastimes. His emphasis was on the Adi Lila, the early pastimes, up to the sannyas of Mahaprabhu, and short and briefly beyond, culminating in the Pundarik Vidyanidhi pastime in Puri. we're like ending on underscoring the preeminence of Raga Bhakti. But so Kaviraj Goswami is saying, but the Sheishlila, means the final pastimes, which he will later divide into Madhya and Antya, that he did not describe. And he himself says, many Vyas will come in the future who will expand upon these pastimes, as if alluding to, including Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. But so many, just repeatedly throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he will say, this pastime has been described by Vrindavan Thakur. So read, and he'll tell he says, Moodhalok. How would you translate that, Maheshwari Didi? That she's so gentle. Yes, foolish people. But Prabhupada, when he'd say, Avajananti mam mudha, manusha, and Bhagavad Gita, you fools, you asses. It's like where Krishna seems to almost momentarily lose his composure. Avajananti mam mudha, manushim tanamasritam, param bhavam ajananto, mama bhuta maheshwaram. Yes, foolish people. So he'd say, Mudha, you foolish people. Like Kaviraj Goswami, that he's saying that, because he's generally so nice, and how do you say, and appealing. But here, and so he's saying, foolish people. He's saying, read Chaitanya. He says Chaitanya Mangal, it means Chaitanya Bhagavad. Read the Chaitanya Mangal of Vrindavan Das Thakur, and you'll get everything. You'll understand everything about Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So he's saying that imploringly, emphatically. He's the biggest fan of Vrindavan Das Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad. And he'll just say, but here's some particular thing that when I went to the devotees who are the followers and appreciators of Vrindavan Das Thakur, namely Haridas Pandit and Vrindavan, there's the Madan Mohan, Madan Gopal temple. So Haridas Pandit, he was a disciple of Ananta Acharya, who is a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, who we shall remember is Srimati Radharani. So who's Ananta Acharya? We're told, if you Kavi Karnapur, look in Saraswati Thakur's commentary, quoting the Gora Gono Desha Dipika, saying, Ananta Acharya is the Astasaki Sudevi. So we say, oh, disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, Radharani, Astasakis, then we can understand something. Then his disciple, Haridas Pandit. So that tells us something there. And although we will say, Chaitanya Charitamrita is an exclusively Madhura Rasa literature, and we can say, comparatively speaking, with folded palms, bowed head, Kaviraj Goswami in the Manjari class, Vrindavan Das Thakur in the cowherd boy, the Gopa. So some different perspective and appreciation, but beautiful. Right? And let's someone do some inappropriate comparative analysis and think, Haridas Pandit, Ananta, how much they appreciate the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Right? And that Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami saying, Moodhalok, foolish people, just, all you have to do is read this book. That's what he means by saying, there's a Bengali saying, I may not pronounce it properly, but they say, Gora Dengya Gash Kawe, which means the horse, the trough is where the horse eats. And they say the horse jumps over the trough in search of food. It means when it's right in front of you and you're leaping over that and going to some other source. As we hear about the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sarva Vedanta Sarvam Srimad Bhagavatam Ishare Tadrasam Ritam Triptasya Nanyatra Ruti Kvachet. If you taste this, you'll lose your taste for everything else. And Guru Maharaj takes that to the extent, Raso Varjam Rasopyasya Param Drishva Nivartate, saying, and if you taste Gorlila, you'll have that sort of experience. So that Kaviraj Goswami and these great devotees, they so much their heart is captured by what is presented by Haridas Takur in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And he's saying, but so that Haridas Pandit, not only was his joy in hearing Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, but, and also giving readings for all the devotees. And when he would do that, it's taken all these great Maha-Bhagavata devotees are like so many stars in the spiritual firmament. And this Haridas Pandit was like the moon. And his recitation like rivers of nectar descending from the moon in this starlit sky of these Maha-Bhagavata Vaishnavas. So, Kaviraj Goswami saying, and he lists these devotees, Haridas Pandit and others, because they asked me to record the pastimes of Mahaprabhu that were not addressed in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, what he received from Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami. They were Mahaprabhu's secretary and his assistant, and they are the one who took the notes on all the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, particularly in his final pastimes, and more specifically in Puri. So, and just to conclude that part, and he's saying, still after all these devotees are saying, Prabhu, you must write this for the posterity, for the future generations, or no one will know. Right? Imagine not knowing the internal reason for the descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's not just some other pastimes that weren't mentioned. Kaviraj Goswami, he is reluctant to praise his own work, but he also knows what is the subject matter, and with the sanction and certificate from all these great devotees, is that, the internal reason for the descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha Baba Duti Subolita, enveloped in the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. So, and still he goes to Madan Mohan for final approval. The garland falls from the deity, and he begins, and he takes up that task. And as we heard recently, with regard to Sri Ramananda Roy, that this revelation, when he's no longer seeing the sannyasi, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, seeing Radha, Rasa Raj Mahabhav, Dui Ek Roop, seeing Rasa Raj Krishna, enveloped by Mahabhav Swarupini, Radha Thakurani. So, Srila Saraswati Thakur begins his Chaitanya Bhagavat commentary with a reference to this. And he's saying, so Radha and Krishna, they have their pastimes. Saying, but He's saying, as Ramananda saw who really is Mahaprabhu, it's Radha and Krishna, but now combined as one, and no longer seeing the sannyasi form. He's saying that Krishna, remember at that juncture, Krishna saying, actually I'm not Govind. Krishna is Shama Sundar. Right? How did he become Gauranga Sundar? By contact with Srimati Radharani. So Saraswati Thakur was saying, these pastimes of Radha and Krishna, which Guru Maharaj calls sometimes, they're a Charja Leela, Gorgadadhar, a Charja Leela. Right? Gururupa, Harim Gauram, Radha Ruchi Ruchavritam, Nityam Nomi Navadipe, Nama Kirtana Nartanai. The Gururupa of Krishna is Gauranga. So the emphasis here is on Odarja, which means magnanimous distribution, and Vipralamba Bhav, separation. As Srila Gurudev put it quite simply once, he's saying, if you want to understand Mahaprabhu, what is his tasting matter? Pida bir navakala kuta katuta garbhasya nirvasano. Rupa Goswami sloka, saying, putting the emphasis on separation. As Govinda, Krishna, he's the supreme enjoyer. Again, Gurudev saying, Vaikuntha, one Lakshmi for one Narayan. Krishna, Lakshmi Sahasrasata Sambrahma Sevyamanam. Hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, trillions of gopis for one Krishna. So he's saying, right, there's a difference between Vaikuntha and Goloka. One Lakshmi for one Narayan, here, billions of gopis for one Krishna. And well, that sounds like the supreme enjoyer. Right? So, but from that position, he cannot relish the position of a devotee. He cannot taste devotion being the object of it. Right? The Ashrae and Vishai. So in Gaur Leela, Krishna, who knows everything about, he's Rasaraj, he knows everything about enjoyment, Rasiko Shekhar. Right? He's come to experience Vipralamba Bhav. Means separation. Bahe Vishajalahoy Bitare Anandamoy Krishna Premier Adbhuta Charit. The wonderfully astonishing quality or characteristic of Krishna Prem is in separation, while externally appearing to be suffering the effects of venom, snake poison, internally relishing some peculiar nectarine substance. So, and at the end of Madhya Leela, Kaviraj Goswami draws a comparative analysis between Krishna Leela and Gaur Leela. And Krishna Leela Amritasar Tar Shata Shatadar Dastike Bahajaha Hoite Se Caitanya Leela Hoy Sarovar Akshoy Manasa Hangsa Charaha Tahate. Krishna Leela Amritasar is the creme de la creme of all nectarine substances, but is reserved for the highest section of liberated souls, which means it's inaccessible, practically impossible to access. I would say, not just liberated souls, Kotish Vipima, out of 10 million Muktanam Api Siddhanam Narayana Parayana, out of 10 million liberated souls, one might be a devotee of Narayan. Koti Mukti Durlab Madhye Ek Krishna Bhakta. Out of 10 million liberated souls, one might be a devotee of Krishna. And then we're told, for the highest section of liberated souls is Krishna Leela. That means impossible of impossible things, virtually inaccessible. So what is the comparison he's making? He's saying, the good news, Gaur Lila, Odarja, the magnanimous distribution of Madhurja, of Madhur Rasa, that it's being, Das DK means the 10 directions, means to the unqualified, is what it means. In every direction. So that is Odarja, the magnanimous distribution of Krishna Lila, giving entrance to there. Yata yata gaura padara vinde, vinde ta bhaktim krita punya rasi, tata tatot sarpati hridya kasmat, radha padam boja sudambu rasi. So Prabodhananda Saraswati, another Astasaki Tungavidya saying, the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, Gaur Lila gives entrance to Krishna Lila. Everyone says, every atom of Navadvip is capable of giving Vrindavan in full. The Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu with his divine associates, that is the Rasa Lila and distribution mode. So Saraswati Thakur is addressing all these things and is beginning, before he's begun the translation. He starts with Odarja and Vipralamba. That's in the first sentence, the first statement in his Gaudiya Bhasya of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And and he makes his point, he's saying, so in consideration of this, to try and impose the position of an enjoyer, which in Sahaja etymology is known as Goranganagari Vad, to impose the position, because Krishna, Krishna, so there must be some parallel in Gaur Lila. He's saying, not the Vrindavan Das Thakur is telling you, don't waste your time trying to establish this fallacy. He's saying, because when Krishna is in connection with Srimati Radharani, as described here, he forgets his Krishna self when he is in his Gauranga identity. So that Krishna, enjoyer Krishna, is suppressed, is not present in the pastimes. So not even in his pre-sannyas lila with Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. There are no such pastimes there. And it's sometimes Prabhupada would say like, and Mahaprabhu, he never joked with any woman. And he said, only one time. He said, Mother Sachi was looking for something. And he said, Nimai Pandit said, maybe Vishnu Priya took it. That was the joke. Husband and wife, these things are going on. But he did not, so they do not have those pastimes. They're nowhere to be found in Gaur Lila. Right? So, Srila Saraswati Thakur is saying, so this, by the grace of Vrindavan Das Thakur and the grace of Nithyananda Prabhu, only can you understand the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's more than perfect that the loudspeaker for the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu would come from Vrindavan Das Thakur, this intimate associate of Nithyananda Prabhu, that it would all come through Nithyananda to him by the grace of Nithyananda Prabhu. Preme Mata Nithyananda Kripa Avatar. Same thing for Kaviraj Goswami. Always Nithyananda must be there. right? Particularly for Vrindavan Thakur. And I remember when I was first reading Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad and going chapter, and I thought, there's so much glorification of Nithyananda Prabhu here. It's like it's equally about Nithyananda Prabhu and his glories, because we'll understand that level of love, affection, and heart from Vrindavan Das Thakur toward Nithyananda Prabhu. And there are so many wonderful things given there. But one section I find repeatedly astonishing and revisit is in the Madhya Lila, the chapter of Mahaprabhu and dancing as a Gopi. What, not just Gopi, but Kaviraj Goswami calls it Devi Bhav. And that's what he says. And he's summarizing and saying, and then there's Nimai Pandit and Devi Bhav. That's described by Vrindavan Das Thakur in great detail. That's all he says. And if you realize that's all he says, and then you read what is given there, it is astonishing. And then you can understand statements like, we can't include, it would just be impossible to, the book would be millions of volumes, right? Because we're told, Ananta Shesh with his thousands of mouths cannot exhaust the glories of Mahaprabhu or Krishna. But Devi Bhav, because Devi Bhav's more inclusive, right? And when I said dancing as a Gopi, that's an English translation, because repeatedly there it will say Lakshmi or Rukmini, or so Devi Bhav is more inclusive. But we're talking about Nimai Pandit undergoing this transformation to devotee. Remember, Gadadhar Pandit and others saying, he's perfect in every way except he's not a devotee, which is mildly humorous because he's Krishna. So it's true, he's not a devotee. But his pastimes are such that he's not showing that from the beginning. He has his pastimes of arrogant scholarship and different, and then he comes back from Gaya transformed, and he's starting to show Bhakta Bhav. But remember, Bhakta Bhav is going to culminate in Radha Bhav. But on the way, we can see some gradation in terms of what is being expressed, and particularly in this pastime. So Nimai Pandit tells his devotees that I want to dance as Rukmini in a play. Let's have a play, and I'll play the part of Rukmini. Right? Interestingly, he says Gadadhar Pandit will play Rukmini. But anyway, he expresses his desire to have a play in which he will dance as the goddess, the various goddesses. And the devotees should go get the stage, the costumes, everything. They're totally thrilled and excited to do that. They run off, and it's going to be at the house of Acharya, Chandrasekhar Acharya. And so the devotees are very excited to hear this, and Advaita is there, Srivas Thakur and others, and he says, but this is very special to see me take the position. There'll be some requirement for the audience members that their senses must be completely controlled to behold this dance. Right? And then we're told that Advaita, Acharya, becomes, and Haridas Takur, they're like, oh. And he's saying, what? And Advaita is saying, oh, I was so much looking forward to this, but I won't be able to attend because my senses are not under control. I'm not qualified. And Haridas Takur says, I was going to say the same thing. I can't go either. And so then we understand something. If we go back to the Bhagavatam, there's another dance described there called the Rasa dance. And what are the qualifications to, on any level, conceive that? Vikreditam brajabadu viridam vishnu swadhanvato varni anushvanayad atavarniyad bhakti param bhagavati pratilabdhikamam hridrogamashru api hinoti achyarena dhira. So it's saying, these pastimes, Vikreditam brajavidur idam cha Vishnu. Interesting. It's the pastime of Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis. Why say Vishnu? Right? Because we may be thinking, oh, Krishna, who is Krishna? So sometimes Vishnu means Vishnu, and sometimes Vishnu means God. So they're saying, these are pastimes of divinity to check us from thinking, oh, Krishna, this boy, man, and so many girls, not like that. Saying these are the pastimes of divinity, right? Which is astonishing. As we've mentioned, Jukupsitam Dharma Krite Anushashata. Narada chastised Vyasa, saying, what is the great disservice you've done to the world? You gave religion. Right? I said, well, wait, I thought religion's supposed to help you. He's saying, no, that was not, it's inadvertent. That was not your idea. But people use religion to stay bound to the world. That's the problem. Kaitava dharma, cheating religion, using religion to not get out of material entangle, but to remain materially entangled. Kaitava dharma in the language of the Bhagavatam. We're told that will not be in the Bhagavatam. After he got chastised by Narada, then Vyasa said, all right, I'll make another book, and I'm going to make it very clear. But these sages who are hearing this from Sukadeva Goswami are saying, wait, you told us in the beginning, Vedavyasa is saying, the great wrong you've done is you infested the world with religion, mundane religion. You know. Now you're telling us that these apparently irreligious activities of the supreme entity, that's the new religion that's going to replace the other one that was no good. They're saying, we can't digest this. It's too much for us. That's why he's saying, Vishnu, no, what is the other verse? Bisham, the sloka about Shiva drinking the ocean of poison, right, at the time of the churning, saying, what was the end result? His neck turned blue, he became Nilkantha, right? Saying, if you cannot digest that, you won't be able to digest this. Right? You cannot digest this unless you're jitendriya. Your senses are completely controlled. Shraddhanvato anushvinayat. Faith, faithful hearing from substantial devotees of Krishna, genuine devotees of Krishna. Right? Is the pathway. And we told Gora Padaravinda, Gora Lila. Bhakti param bhagavati pratyalabdam ka. Because what are we suffering from? Hridrogam, heart disease. The polluted heart will not be able to properly conceive. No. Achirena dhira. Dhira means jitendriya, the senses subdued, controlled. So that's what it's told in the Bhagavatam. And see here Mahaprabhu saying the same thing. You won't be able to, the audience for this dance, their senses, they must be jitendriya. And who's not qualified? Who considers them? So many newly recruited neophytes voyeuristically envisioning themselves as super servitors. Right? And they're qualified to enter into all these things, right? Because they've been mumbling some semblance of Krishna Nam for some time. Right? But who considers themselves unqualified? Mahavishnu and Narad Muni. Right? Advaita Charja, Sadashiva, Advaita Charja, Mahavishnu, Haridas Takur, Narad Muni. They don't consider themselves qualified for this. But newly recruited, they're ready. Right? Running to, what does Guru Maharaj say? Plodding in the mud of misunderstanding, thinking they are swimming in the divine waters of Radha Kunda. But these two, they don't consider that they're qualified. Udava, asamaho chararenu jishamahangshang, Vrindavane kimapi gumilatosa. That he doesn't consider himself like, if I could get an atomic presence in that plane, my existence would be consecrated by being bathed in the dust of their holy lotus feet. That's Radha Dasyam. Right? So, for those who can feel that they are not qualified, like about the culture, Siddha Deha and such things. Gurudev put it very beautifully after so many things where he said, Guru Maharaj's opinion is, even if you're qualified, you shouldn't do it. Not a question of qualified, he said, even if you're qualified, you shouldn't do it. And we heard that from Prabhupada in the very beginning, how the exalted devotees do not, so as to not mislead the lower section. So, but then what hope is there in the sense of prospect? He's pleased with them that they say this, that they consider themselves unqualified, and smiled and said, all right, I'm going to give you a benediction. For the duration of the performance, your senses will be under control. It can only come from higher. Right? Guru Maharaj said, a genuine pure devotee will never think they have achieved anartha nivritti, that they are free from anarthas, what to speak of anything higher, like nishta, ruchi, ashakti, bhav, etc. They will never think they've achieved anartha nivritti, right? Such as their standard of perfection. So they assemble everything, and so then they have the audience there, Mother Sachi, and they're all, and then who comes? Haridas Takur. He's wearing a big turban, has a handlebar mustache, and a club, and he's a policeman. And he's telling everybody he's saying, to wake up and understand the opportunity that is before you. Like the Vedas, Utishta, Utishta, Jagrata, Prapya, Baran, Nibodhata. Right? And he's saying, what is that? Krishna Prema Luti. He's saying, what you're about to see, you'll be able to steal Krishna Prem today. That's what he says. Luti, like looted in English. Today, you can steal it. It'll be right there for you to take. And that's what I advise you to do. And he sees Haridas Takur dressed with a bina. He's playing the role of Narada, which is interesting because he is Narada. Right? So, and he's playing, and he says, "Where are you coming from?" And he says, "I was just in Vaikuntha, and it's empty." And I was saying, "Where did everybody go?" And they said, "Oh, don't you know? The Lord is descended in Nadia and Navadvip." He said, "So seeing Vaikuntha vacant, I decided to come here. And I heard that he's going to be dancing today as his potency, his Shakti." So I also wanted to come and participate. So all the costumes have been gathered and the scene has been set, and we're told, to the astonishment of everyone, that Nimai Pandit, he enters Rukmini Bhav, and he is completely appearing as Rukmini, that his own mother cannot recognize him, who, incidentally, we're told, seeing the beauty of Narada, and asked Malini, "Is that Pandit?" And she goes, "Yes." And she went, "Oh," and just fainted. And all the devotees chant, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna," to bring Mother Sachi back. Right? So, Hare Krishna. So, Nimai Pandit, in the garb of Rukmini, he's and everyone is astonished to see that, and sees that his tears are pouring from his eyes. He's sitting on the ground. The tears pour down and they come onto his finger, and on his finger he's writing. "I can hear what you're saying. It's too loud. I can hear the control room. It's too loud." So he's, and starts quoting these verses from the Bhagavatam, where Rukmini is inviting Krishna to kidnap her, beginning with Srutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Srinvatam Te Nirvisha Karna Vivarai Haratonga Tapam Rupam Dasham Dashimatam Akilarta Labam Tvayachuta Vishati Patram Chitram Apatrapam Me. When I heard about you, I realized why we have the auditory sense, why there is hearing. It's to hear about you. It's not like an option. It's the reason we have the auditory sense, is to hear about Krishna, the beauty of Krishna, the charm of Krishna, the sweetness of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna. And in that instance, Haratonga Tapam, all suffering vanished. Like Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibir Idisham Kalmasha Apaham. Same thing in Gopi Gita. Talking about Krishna, hearing about Krishna, all suffering vanishes. That is the key to vanishing the suffering of this world. Whether it be the mundane suffering and forgetfulness of Krishna, or the spiritual suffering of separation and remembrance of Krishna. Speaking about Krishna, hearing about Krishna. Rupam Dasham Dashimatam Akilartalam. And through hearing, I could see you. Your divine form comes out of sound. Nama Rupa Guna Lila. The Rup aspect comes out of the Nam aspect, out of the sound aspect. The divine form of Krishna appears. And so you can say, now I feel I've got everything. There's nothing more I want than this, other than I'm inextricably surrounded by karmic circumstance. And really, I'm meant for you. I'm not meant as the payment for karmic action. I'm meant for you. So don't let that karma take what is meant for you. Come, rescue me, kidnap me. Is what you, and so it's, and Mahaprabhu is in Nimai Pandit as Rukmini. Tears are pouring down his eyes onto his finger, and he's writing these slokas on the ground. And all the devotees are taking Krishna Nam, crying and wonder and astonishment. And then later we're told Gadadhar Pandit takes the stage and appears as a gopi in the company of another devotee and begins dancing, because these gopis are told by Advaita and another. It's a play, so they're saying, "Young ladies, where are you going?" And kind of thing. And at one point they're told, "Our master enjoys dancing very much." Oh, then Gadadhar Pandit starts dancing. And if we remember, Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani, this astonishing dancing to the delight and utter amazement of all the devotees in the audience. And then Nimai Pandit appears again and is now going to show all the different types of Devi and Shakti there are. Right? So much so, and devotees cannot recognize that it is Nimai Pandit. So, and according to their heart's consideration, just like the when Krishna enters the arena of Kamsa, at Malanam, Ashanirninam, Nadavana, Srinam, they're seeing him differently. Here, the audience members, they're saying, "Is it not Kamala, the goddess of fortune, who's risen from the ocean of milk?" So I'm seeing Durga Devi. So is it not Lakshmi Devi? It is Sita. So everyone is seeing, he's showing this, reciprocating what is in their hearts. So they're seeing all these different divine forms and seemingly the shadow representation of them as well, and the goddesses. And it's mentioned there that part of this is to show Krishna does not like for the demigods and the goddesses to be disrespected in any way. And I wanted to say this. We learn that sitting at the lotus feet of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, because we were sort of, you could say, it was drilled into us at an early stage, like Yanti Deva Vrata Devan, about the gods and goddesses and not to equate them with Krishna, and that's the offenses in the holy name. But if we look there, and Sanatana Goswami Prabhu's Tika of the Brihad Bhagavatamritam, he's saying, yes, not to equate them as being equal with Krishna, but not to dismiss them either. And that was what we needed to learn from Srila Gurudev. His not only comfort with them, but his genuine appreciation for them, because he's seeing them in connection to Krishna. So part of this pastime, we're told, is that Krishna wants us to see them in such a way as to enlist their, help in approaching Krishna. He's saying, and making it clear. Oh, and Saraswati Thakur in his purports about this thing. So, but if you approach the same and you're asking for something for yourself, then that's a mundane transaction. That is what is being frowned upon. So, and And by introducing this, I'm not recommending that devotees try this at home. Right? Just clarifying something. Right? So we'll see, the Braja Gopis worship Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. We're not told we should also try similar things, but it's just being given in this way. And so the devotees, they're all floating in an ocean of Krishna Prem, observing these pastimes, and when, as Adya Shakti, showing that he is, in this context, in the position of mother, the source of everything. And we're told there that he will demonstrate here, realize the import of the Bhagavad Gita sloka. Pitaham asya jagato mata data pitamaha. So we read that for a long time. Pitaham means father. Pitaham asya jagato. Pitamaha means grandfather. We could understand the same, but when it said Pitaham asya jagato mata data. Mata, I'm also mother. Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm also mother. So in this pastime, everyone is seeing in this form as mother. And he said, so offer some praise. And they start offering all these different prayers. Oh, Mother, you are responsible for all the innumerable universes and worlds in which the souls can enter and become liberated. Oh, Mother, your glory is everything from the mother point of view. So much praise there. And he's also dancing. And we're told, while he's dancing, he's holding the hand of Nithyananda Prabhu. And sometimes casting sidelong glances, and that's just further plunging devotees into an ocean of ecstasy. Until they look and they see outside that the night has ended and the sun is rising. And it's heartbreaking for them because they realize then that's going to be the end of these pastimes. And they're saying, Krishna, why are you so cruel? And it's mentioned there, when they look at the sun, if not for the Lord's mercy, their glance would have burned the sun to ashes. Their disappointment was so great. So seeing them, they're all heartbroken that these pastimes are coming to an end, and they're seeing him as mother. So we're told, then he takes all of the devotees, well, he's still in this mother form, and breastfeeds all of them, some divine nectarine substance, and that makes them all happy. Like little children, like little babies, they've been breastfed, and that now they're pacified and they're happy. And the pastimes come to a conclusion, and all the devotees return to their respective residences. And it's mentioned there that in the aftermath, it appeared as though the sun, the moon, and lightning were present simultaneously in the house of Acharya, Chandrasekhar Acharya, for another week to 10 days. And people would come by and they go, wow, you can't even look at Chandrasekhar's house, it's so bright. And the devotees would just smile and not say anything. But so Vrindavan Das Thakur says, when, in that final act, when as Devi, Adya Shakti, when the Lord's dancing and showing all these different aspects of goddess and holding the hand of Nithyananda Prabhu, and Nithyananda was as Babushka, meaning Purnamasi, Purnamasi is the grandmother, but is really Yogamaya, facilitating everything. So this connection, and at that point, Vrindavan Thakur says, if you don't understand that Nithyananda's grace and position responsible for all of this, and you can't appreciate him, he said, people think of him differently. They have so many different conceptions about Nithyananda Prabhu. Some may have some validity to them, some may have none. He's saying, but my heart and soul is eternally given over to the lotus feet of Nithyananda Prabhu. He said, I wouldn't care if he was a relatively insignificant devotee. He would be my Lord eternally. But that's not the case. The first other than Krishna, the foundation of everything, of all grace, Preme Matta Nityananda Kripa Avatar. He's saying, so if you cannot, for whatever inauspicious reason, appreciate the glories of Nithyananda Prabhu, and this is where he says, then I want to kick your face with my left foot. Like, I want to kick your teeth in. And then he'll say, whoa, wait, that's not, what about Trinadapi, humility, tolerance. And they say, and Kaviraj Goswami, he's saying, Jagai madhai hoite muishe papishta, purishera kita hoite muishe lagishta. That's Vaishnava. And Vrindavan, what is this? So they're saying, he must be on a lower level. Right? Not so. Saraswati Thakur saying, he's saying, this is the mercy of the Vaishnava for those who couldn't get it otherwise. How merciful Vrindavan Das Thakur is. And Srila Guru Maharaj said, if a child kicks somebody, the parents have to offer themselves in compensation to the offended person. Right? So he's like the child of Nityananda, Vrindavan, completely dependent child on the Nityananda. So if he kicks you, then Nityananda and Mahaprabhu have to come and offer themselves to you in compensation for the misbehavior of their child. So Saraswati Thakur was saying, how merciful is that foot of Vrindavan Das Thakur? And then he says, but only devotees can understand this. And so, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Avirbhav Mahamahotsavatiti Ki Jai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Caitanya Nithyananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhata Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Echai Gochai Jar Mui Taro Das. Kansavala Padarenu Mora Panchagras
Kansavala Padarenu Mora Panchagras
Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas
Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas
Janame Janame More Avilas
Janame Janame More Avilas
Echai Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilovas
Echai Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilovas
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya
Hari Nam Sankirtan Ko Hai Narottama Das
Harinam Sankirtana Ko Hai Narottama Das
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaur Hari Bo
Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gora Hari Bol
Jai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaur Hari Bo
Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gora Hari Bol
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Sutera Sata Shri Srimad Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Shri Bhakti Rakak Shri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Takur Ki Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nithyananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Vrindavan Das Thakur Avirbhav Mahamahotsabatiti Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Om Vishnu Pad Vishva Varenya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Charja Brinda Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalabhadut Maharaj Ki Jai Sannyasi Brinda Ki Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai Seva Brinda Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai Nitai Go Premanande
Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Maharaj Dandavats from Arjun Prabhu, Krishnadas Prabhu, Nimai Priya Didi from Ukraine, Kalyani Didi, Krishna Kanti Didi, Purushottam Prabhu, Jagannatha Chaitanya Prabhu, Kuladri Prabhu from USA, Ramsundra Prabhu from Govinda Farm, Ramsundar Prabhu from India, Rasananda Prabhu, Ajita Krishna Prabhu from Russia, Adityananda Prabhu, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, Shyama Malini Prabhu from UK, Goranganagari Prabhu, Sundar Gopal Prabhu from Mexico, Hari Balap Prabhu from Hawaii, Atul Krishna Didi and Madhavi Didi, Atul Krishna Prabhu and Madhavi Didi from Hungary. Yeah. Prema Rupa Didi, Shyamala Didi from Belarus, Dhananjaya Prabhu, Banavi Didi from Italy, Yogamaya Didi from Germany, Ukraine, and Lila Sundari Didi from Australia.
Jai, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai Rasananda Prabhu in Sochi, Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu in Vrindavan, Suresh Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat, Rupa Vilas in Philippines, Dandavat. Where is this? But which country? Lithuania. Oh, all right, Dandavat. So, in a new place. Govinda Nandini Didi in Moscow, Dandavat. Kalindi Priya, she's here, Dandavat. Gokulatarni Didi, Dandavat. Achyutananda, Dandavat in Yaroslavo. Gaur Chandra Prabhu, Nadhodka in Russia. Jamuna's mama Elena in Moscow, Dandavat. Jivana Didi in Krasnodar in Russia, Dandavat. Brinda, who's Kalindi Priya's mother in Nizhny Novgorod in Russia, Dandavat. Ananda Murti Prabhu, Dandavat. Pavel Brun Prabhu in Moscow, Dandavat. Praneshri Didi doing the Espanol translation, Dandavat. Ananda Nidhi in Crimea, right? Dandavat. Ratan Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. We know where he is? Kiselni and Moscow. All right, Leela Sundar Prabhu, Dandavat. Paramananda Prabhu and Krishna Priya Didi. Hare Krishna. And Kruntep Mahanakan. Hare Krishna. Priyanana, it looks like in Lakta. All right, on her journey homeward, yes, in Laktadam. Ajita Krishna Prabhu and Kiselni Dandavat. Ye Prayaso Jita Jito Piyasi Taistrilokyam. Shamala Didi Dandavat. Praneshri, yes, Leela Sundar. Suleka in Kiev, Dandavat. Indumukhi in with Mitra Binda in China. Hare Krishna. Anindita, Dandavat. Whoops. Chandrakanti. Hare Krishna. And Nalina and Sudevi. Hare Krishna. Sudevi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Sulakshana is here doing the Chinese translation. And Lakshmi Priya Didi in Kiev. Shamala, I don't know where she is.
I don't know.
Okay. And Gadadhar Pran, Dandavat. He's older than that now. Damodar Prabhu, Dandavat. Ananda Rupa, Dandavat. Prafula Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain, Dandavat. Dhananjaya Prabhu, Dandavat. Nithyananda Das is here doing the translation. Is that everyone? Sandeep, camera issue today. Still we give our Dandavats to Sandeep Krishna Prabhu and Greater Sukartal, Sankarshan Das.
He's from here.
Oh, he's here. Okay. Banchakalpa Triyuvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Jam Shubhashil Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.